All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Monday pre-market stream. I hope everybody had a great weekend out there. Let's say a big thank you to everyone that joined us early. We've got Rob, Chris, Cackling Hatter, Lillian, Blue Mammal, Sean, the original BTC, Zulfi, Sean, Janice, Shane, Peter, Michael, William, Oren, and many, many others. Great to have you all here. I hope you're having a good session start. And of course, today, as per usual, we'll be talking about stocks, commodities, cryptos, and we'll go through our kind of medium to long-term thoughts and where we're at in the markets. Then we'll talk about rotation in general, because I think that's going to be a very important factor over the next couple of weeks. And then we'll go through our short stuff in terms of what's happening today, what's happening in the next 2 to 3 days, at least in our opinion. So let's move over to, I guess, without further ado, discussing these markets. And we'll start off here with a bit of an image. And I guess I'll share this one here, which is, of course, the record weekly inflow into tech. Basically, big funds were forced to purchase, and this also helped to create the squeeze, and the sideline money came in. We can now see this in effectively data stats, and I don't think it's any surprise to most people that tech stocks have been going ballistic. And then, of course, the big funds came in, and we saw that in NVIDIA. We saw that in semiconductors, and anyone that was obviously short had to cover, and they most likely got squeezed last week. Now, do we believe that we've seen a topping, or at least probably a significant level that could be causing now a kind of underperformance of technology? Well, I think it's fair to think that that's the way we're going to be looking at things. Now, we do share a chart often on this stream, and I'll just write it in here. We'll actually just put it in over the top of this one, and we'll do the Nasdaq versus IWM. And what this does, it shows us the outperformance of technology stocks over the, of course, weakness that has been the rest of the market. Have we seen that switch? First up, I want to ask the community here, what do you guys think? Do you think we've switched? Let us know in the chat. Yes or no? It's that simple. Have we seen the topping of kind of peak performance here of the Nasdaq, and now it's time for other stocks? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. William Dennis says FOMO. Absolutely, FOMO. FOMO. That's the way we're looking at things at the moment. Craig Taylor says hit the like button. Thank you very much, Craig. Appreciate it. Let's see what everybody thinks about this. A few people say no. Lenny says no. Lewis says yes. Still too soon, says Blue Mammal. And probably still too soon, a lot of people. So, of course, it's a ratio, yeah? So we have to believe that even if technology goes up, the question is, will small stocks now go up more than technology? And that's something that we've seen happen a few times. And it happened in 2020. We got into this kind of few months of extra performance. And then we went to relative stinker, really, after that. Basically, from all the way through that almost May, all the way through to the end of the year. And then, of course, significant underperformance from that point onwards. We didn't actually have much interest in the technology stocks. And if you traded that time, you'd know exactly what I was talking about. Then it had a good little resurgence. Then it went back to being kind of pitiful again. So it's about long versus short. Now, do I need to do that? No. But this is a significant outperformance, it's a significant high, and it obviously shows us rotation. So when we're talking about medium long term, we have to understand that this is at least the first weakness that we've seen in some time towards other sectors. Let's have a look at some of the other evidence. Now, I've seen all these markets happen before. And of course, we've seen many runs over history. And I will say that AVGO, while I think it could still obviously rally a little bit more, one of these two scenarios, very possible, maybe a drop before it rallies first. I would think that this is very close, if not the high. Now, there are significant reasons why that could be. It's not the long-term high. It's most likely the medium-term high, which means, 3, 6, 12 months away, it's unlikely to perform very well with this type of market. And the reason is because somebody sold. We don't know who exactly it was. Obviously, the squeeze was on, and then someone sold a massive position. They were like, goodbye, I'm done. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of those sweet gains, and I'll tell my clients about them at the end of the year, and it'll be good. So they're pretty happy with themselves. But when you drop that much so quickly, it is symptomatic of a blow off top. Now, AVGO is, of course, just one stock, but it is something that is important to look at. And I think the weight of evidence is becoming real. I shared on the weekend a bunch of options that were being sold. So I think one of those shares here is a whole bunch of open calls. Look at the dates here, guys. So a lot of June call expirations. And interestingly, they're all kind of set around that concept of just after pretty much the middle of the month. What is the middle of the month? Anyone know what it is from a news perspective? Verified news says volume spike signals reversal. Yeah. So of course, we don't look at this from the perspective of, well, firstly answer that question, but what we're looking at here is it's the first time in basically about 4 weeks we can significantly say that we might be tapping into really, really big zones. Have we seen a turnaround price action wise? No. Have we seen a swing turnaround on the stock markets at this stage? No. If we were long, would we be concerned? Well, you might descale some portion. I've talked about that on Apple a few times. However, if you're a long-term investor, I don't think I'd really be too worried about this at this point and the way that the market is currently flowing. But I think a lot of people will be setting up some scale outs on their swing trades, even when they're going up and through here. So this is a pretty big one. And I think this is like, a huge, huge portion. Ligma says, I feel like I'm in university Zoom. Well, that's pretty good. Welcome to university, Ligma. But this is definitely one of those areas, guys. So it's great. It's not something you often see, this many sold covers coming through, and they're all sitting at around 4,300, 4,290s on the SPY, and that's obviously something that I think is pretty important to be focusing on. Let's have a look at a couple of the other reasons. The VIX is very low, coming into 14.13. Let's have a look at the VVIX. So the VVIX is the volatility of the volatility. What's it showing us? Well, it actually spiked up on Friday. We saw a small increase in the VVIX. Now, symptomatically, when we get these 13 readings, we often find bases or bottoms in these markets. So what that means is that volatility is just around the corner. That, coupled with our skew index getting slammed, means that people are now suddenly not paying as much for puts as they were. The black swan, the scary event, all of those types of things are actually moving more to a kind of like, calls are cool again. Calls are cool. Calls are cool. And puts are stupid, which is exactly what you want. And if you're a swing trader, you're certainly got your mark on here saying, okay, well, we're hitting 4,300 almost on the SPY. That's our extreme zone number 2. We don't want to make a call early. So that's very important with trading. You're not really necessarily trying to predict. You're just looking at the weight of evidence each way. And if you were to say, what's the strongest looking trend right now? Well, of course, it's still bullish. But if we got a turn, there are many valid reasons to say that turns should be coming. And because of skew crush, and also the other things, that if a turn does come now, it would be more significant. It might actually give you, your 4, 5, 8% kind of pullbacks that you generally see in markets, that type of thing, to allow bigger traders to reload. Now, I saw a comment at the beginning, and it was about the idea that there was a heavy leverage position. And you're not wrong. There is a heavy leverage position, and it is very, very short. And basically, there is somebody going heavy shorts here on the markets, and they're heavy shorting similar to August. And this is a different level of short. It's not the puts that we've been talking about. It's more of a leveraged amount of money, and they've been kind of scaling into it. And obviously, it also led us to believe that we might have been topping back off early in April, which is, partially why I was crapping on about that. But also, I think that they're continuing to kind of back in those shorts. So generally, they don't like to lose money. They will descale their shorts immediately as soon as the market starts to drop. But this is a very similar reading to what we saw in August of 2022. So I think it's very important to note that that type of thing is there as well. MH says, is it poll time? We're doing poll very, very soon here. Paradot Sinso's market usually reverses when the people least expect it. This week has no major economic catalyst. True. And the VIX and put call ratio represent the fact that not many hedges are active. That is correct as well, man. There's a ton of hedges on the 15th, 16th, which is around that kind of week of the Fed and the 25 basis points announcements. There's not much this week. You are correct. It's a thin week. And that's a great point there. The PCC Don't know what that is. The PCC is really really low. So yeah, it's another one we're looking at. So from a kind of swing based perspective, is this the time that you go all in on tech or anything like that? My opinion is you got to be very cautious. And of course, it's my opinion. You can totally disagree with me. It's fine. I just don't see that these are very rare signals. We don't see puts this low very often. Also, thank you very much to the 683 people already joining us here for the stream. If you do enjoy the streams, make sure to smash those like buttons. It does help us out quite a lot. Inverse King says, I'm catching the short falling knife till it breaks the other way. Yeah, well, you are the Inverse King, by the way. I'll just quickly got to bring that up here. Yeah, the Inverse King. Yeah. So anyway, that's one of the things that you're always looking at here. Put call ratio, very very rare to see it come down here. Now we had this one last time in February of this year, and at the same point, remember what happened? We hit February, we hit FOMO about a week later. Everyone went ballistic, and then suddenly something cracked. And then of course the central banks came in, protected it, and we've seen them continuously pump the back end back into these markets. But I think that this Friday, February result, we know what happened a few weeks after that. We know what obviously could happen with such a low PCC. This is very rare. We don't get it very often. I have a yellow line that I literally sit on that. And you can also see what started this year rally. Remember, we had a huge amount. Obviously, there was a bit of rotation here, but we had a huge amount coming off. Suddenly, there was too many puts, and then we went up. This one here is just way too many calls. So calls are everywhere here. MH says, oh, wow, Apple close to opening at its all-time high. What a great level to check out, but we'll continue to just go through this medium term. So I think there's a very good chance that the price will be lower than this point, plus a little bit more over the next 3 to 4 months. Remember, we are going into Q3, historically the worst couple of periods, and generally July into September of pre-election years is weaker. Okay, that's just the facts. Is it a stat? It's a stat. So what markets do we look at? Well, that's a good question as well. What markets do we look at? Well, in general, you want to be looking in particular at whether you're seeing defensives pick up. I think this might be the final catalyst along with price action this week. We're watching these defensives, XLU, XLV, XLP, big volume coming through over the last 24 hours of trade, which was Friday. And actually what happened was it was dropping in the morning, and then all of a sudden it just suddenly turned. And I was watching it turning, and I was like, okay, that's going to go for the rest of the session, and did. But yeah, it was turning. It was actually down about 0.3%. And then all of a sudden it just started ticking up, and I went, yep, that thing's going to run. Yeah, we're on a pretty interesting base level for most of these defensives. And defensives are boring. So if they start to pick up 2-3 days of strong pickup in those, you usually know what's happening in markets. So that's going to be an important one to watch here. Marty D, Canadian, $5.50. Hey, Tom, what course do you recommend? Day trading versus master trading? What's the difference? Day trading would be more if you wanted to get involved in, well, basically day trading. If you like trading daily, if you like trading in the hours, if you like trading opens, and also understanding how swings start, then that would be that one. The Ultimate Masterclass, by the way, thank you very much for the donation, Marty. The Ultimate Masterclass will be more of a swing-based method, more slow, more methodical, focused on. And then, of course, if you did like the group with me, I'd be talking a lot about, rotation, money flow, how, the big economic system kind of works, and when you actually need to be terrified. Because I'll tell you this right now, I'm never never truly terrified in markets. And I'll just give you a hint, unless the problem comes from real estate. Okay. And I'm not talking commercial. And I'll leave it at that, but I'll always say this. I'm always optimistic in general over the investment lifeline. Yeah. Investment, not necessarily trade, but investment. I'm always optimistic unless it's driven by property. And then I'm scared, because that's where some debt literally sits. Paradoxin says, Tom, can we please have a look at Max Payne for the 16th of the 6th, which is, of course, June. Quarterly expiry, insane open interest, and Max Payne is 8% lower for the Qs. Yeah, so what you're looking at is a very valid thing, which is basically at the moment we are well above some of these huge maturity dates. So this is a massive maturity date, 3.5 million open interest, so huge amounts of options. And I was going to get to this. It's definitely in my medium term. If you look here, the high call rate at the moment, or the max pain is 410. Current price is 428. Certainly showing extension. 400 is actually still the hedged area. So just remember the hedge is at 400. It's not at 428, which is where we are right now. And look at the calls starting to appear on this market. So there's a lot of bricks in front of the call end. And really, if the market was going to get a very good deal, it would come back to between 400 and 410. And that would be where, I'm sure JP Morgan and everyone else would have the smiley face saying, look at us, we trapped you again, suckers. They'd be pretty happy with themselves. So yeah, the max pain is showing a huge amount of call buying. People are getting very optimistic. I mean, who's this dude? 550 strike, 13,632 contracts. Wow. Bull Bear says on Friday, SPY hit the 61.8 fib from the 2022 decline. Will it now continue its plunge to the Great Reset? I don't know if we'll get a Great Reset. I don't think so. They've just, the central banks, the only reason this market's up is because the central banks have shown that they have basically a propensity to just continuously stack these markets. I mean, what a pain in the ass. That's what they do. Experimental Perception, $5. Thoughts on Airbnb midterm 6 months to 12 months? All right, we'll have a look at Airbnb in a second. Thank you very much, Experimental Perception. Always appreciate that. Residential real estate lol. Yeah, MH, it's dead set, man. MH, I'm not even kidding you, bro. You gotta get on that thought process. I simply ask you this question, and I'll ask this question of everyone right now. It's poll time. Let's do it. All right, here we go. Here we go, guys. Typing away here, just getting this up. All right, here we go. You guys can vote. Got 860 people here. I expect some good votes coming through. The question is, which is the largest asset class in the world? Okay. Simple. Why? Ray says, why should should a day trader use max pain? Day trader probably shouldn't use max pain. More of a swing trader should use max pain. And if you're going to even consider max pain, just remember it's only likely to happen in the third week, which is the OPEX week. So the third week options expiration. And that's just because look, options mostly, you have to play the stats. Does anyone actually know the stats here of options and how many people lose at options? How many options expire worthless? Someone know the stat? Put it in the chat. It's not currencies, KC. But I could add currencies to the poll, but I'm going to show you that it's not that one. Billy Mays says, obviously something. Okay. 100%. It's not 100%. It's not 100%. I'm just counting. Just think about it. You don't have to count everything, but I can tell you that the chart would be real. So anyway, third week options expirations when you use max pain. Is it reliable by itself? No, it is not. Is it a decent tool to potentially, you could butterfly certain levels on it if you know what a butterfly is with options, especially when you're far away, you can get some banger butterflies, but it's not really by itself a method. But if you know how to use butterflies, yeah, you can sometimes target, let's say, a little bit of max pain. And then as it goes through, close off early. Like most options, you're better off not leaving them to expiration. You're actually better off closing them early once you hit your ratios and your rules. So we'll open and close this poll immediately. Let's see if everybody gets it correct. Not everyone got it correct. So the results are 63% real estate, 29% bonds, 5% stocks, and gold and oil combo is only at 1. Poll 312. So real estate wins 100%. You just have to ask this question. How many people do you know with real estate debt? Okay. How many people do you know with real estate debt? How many people do you know with stock debt, with everything else? Who owns, everyone has generally in their life at some point owns a portion of a house, or at least a house, ideally. And it's just the common sense approach. So if there's a problem there, you got to be terrified. Let's be real. Okay. It's a big one. And I'll just tell you that it's a belief I really, really believe. Okay. I'm super behind it. And yeah, that's the one I'm actually terrified of. And then ask yourself also what holds up markets. Basically, greediness. You need to have confidence in markets. If you allow confidence to get off, no one will ever want to take on the debts, and debt drives economies. Anyway, yeah, so medium term, we're looking at, I think, very close to the top here for these markets. And I mean, I'm serious. Like, I'm actually, like, yeah, I've got a small portion, 1/3, activated at about 41.50. This is my extreme zone number 2. I've had it here for, I don't know, ages. So here's my extreme zone number 2. We're looking at one more gap fill. I'd like to see 43.04. I don't know if we'll get it. We'll find out. Would I activate any sells yet? Nope, because that would be predicting. But if you wanted to, and of course, options, it would be the only case you could use. So it's still good times rolling at the moment. Rotation seems to be through, and there are certain stocks we'll look at right now. So medium term, I still think over the next 4 months, we will see a sell-off. I still think that we're coming into the extreme zone number 2, and we're highly likely with the weight of evidence to see a turn relatively quickly. We've got VVIX, we've got skew ratio, we've got PCC, we've got calls everywhere. We have blow-offs on a couple of tech stocks, and we, of course, have people leveraging up the shorts in a different back-end way that isn't usually options. And even Max Payne is leading into it, plus the sold covers. There's a lot of evidence there that we didn't have weeks ago. So much more evidence than we've ever had this year. So we'll find out whether that actually comes true. We'll be, of course, covering that as much as we can. We'll talk through some scenarios very, very soon. All right, let's move over to the question, which was Airbnb. What do we think of Airbnb? Chat, what do you think of Airbnb? I don't know why that keeps doing that. So Airbnb, let's load it up on the charts and let's have a look at the stock, because we are very much in an individual stock market at this stage. I hope I didn't just drop internet because something just lagged then. Let's hope we didn't. Mez Jero says thumbs down. What happened? Okay. Someone said thumbs down, I guess, for Airbnb. Why is my Airbnb not loading? Sorry if we dropped then, by the way. I'll give you my personal opinion on Airbnb. I'm trying to load this stock, guys. There we go. We got it. Hopefully we're still live. I think we just lost it. We discussed Airbnb last week, looking for the gap fill. Yeah, that's correct. We did. But anyway, in general, this was a nice little level, and 61.8 pullback of the swing. I think we had a base formation here, which was pretty nice. It follows my usual track record, which is if an IPO comes into the market, bugger it off for about 2 years, 18 months, 2 years, something like that. Never even consider it for the first 12 months. It sucks. And yeah, it has seemed to have based off. Now, my personal opinion with Airbnb is this: if you're going with friends and like family, and you want to have a great weekend away with 10 different people, like all in a big house, okay, it's good for that. My personal opinion, if you're going with just your own family, I wouldn't use it. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's useless. It's useless, guys. And you get dirty places. Sometimes people don't clean them properly. My God. So-called 5-star reviews, I swear they're bought. Anyone been to an Airbnb where it says it's clean and then you rock up and you're like, what is this? It's like the worst. Dirty ass. it's not too good. And you pay a lot for them. They're not cheap. They ain't cheap. I find it's cheaper to stay in nice hotels, actually. Anyway, Airbnb here, nice base, double bottom, obviously looking for gap fill. I would say that, today it's down 2.8%, but in general, that is usually the way you want to be looking at it, is kind of like here into, a rally for that gap fill. It doesn't look very negative on the charts. Weekly here looks relatively strong and base looks pretty strong. I think as a medium term, which you've asked for, which is 6 to 12 months, the base looks pretty good and it is one of the market leaders. I'm not huge on the company or huge on this type of whatever it is, timeshare things. I think governments are cracking down on them. But overall, the chart doesn't lie here, in my opinion, and the weekly is fairly strong looking. The base is strong looking. The daily looks relatively good. The volume has been strong. The earnings reports haven't really been super disappointing. So, yeah, I think, and it's also gone through the 2 years of hell. So really, it probably should be more a 160 stock in the future. At least that's my opinion. But that's the thing. My own personal opinion of Airbnb means nothing. It's just what are you looking at in the charts? And then, of course, you'd have to load the fundamentals, but we could do that. Verified news, $2. Thank you very much for the donation. USD, I know you cover it free, but here's a tip. Appreciate it, Verified news. Thank you very much. For experimental perception, my thoughts are that it looks relatively good as a base. And there are a couple of good stocks actually it looks good as a base here. Possible island on Metatom, Joseph says. We'll check that out. We got a couple of islands that we can look at. We'll first up start with the Disney, the Mickey Mouse. And we can say here, nice to see it up again here today, that has done an island reversal, and it was a pretty solid Friday trade. Was anyone in Disney on Friday here in the chat? 952 people. Anyone here? Anyone on the Mickey? Michael H says, I worked in hotels for years. They don't clean well either. Ooh. Okay, Michael H. Don't name many names. Might get done for something there. Astral says, I added 50. Okay. Interesting. Airbnb buy at 112. Yeah. 112 would be a fair level. Obviously, that's the double bottom, probably coming back to the neckline there of that. Tried to get in Disney on Friday, just had no cash put towards it. Fair enough, Mez. Jero, all tied up in the Tesla. Well, hopefully you're on the bull wagon, I guess, at the moment. Or if you're on the bear wagon, just hoping it sells in the next kind of $15, $10. Yeah, 1% at 10 a.m. Fair enough. So yeah, this was a pretty solid little island reversal. It came off relatively interesting volume. Obviously, we spotted those options, which I think is probably the best way to do things at the moment. Look for those slightly out of date options that are coming through. So ones that are maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, few months away, and also start to spot just overarching puts. So if you're waiting for a base to form on markets, my opinion is long date puts. If they start appearing out of nowhere, and also not really so much short dates because they're creating instantaneous hedging, but long date puts, the old method that I've talked about, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, that kind of thing. When they stack too high, it's a big problem. You know what was happening here with Disney is after earnings, what did people go out and do? They kept buying the same thing. 1 day calls, 2 day calls, 3 day calls, like useless. You're going to lose. You are a lose. You're going to get one of those stats. Remember we asked before, how much do people lose in options? I think it's like 80 something percent or 70 to 80% of most of them expire worthless. That's why we use Max Payne. So look, Disney's got some upside potential here. Obviously, it's got gap fill potential. It is pretty weak usually in pre-election years. I would like to see it at least strengthen to 94.25. And at the moment, it's having an okay session pre-start. Ideally, it would base here, though. As you can see, Disney is very low in comparison to where it's been. And that's because they've been burning their franchises. But hey, that's my opinion. It's got nothing to do with this stock. So from an actual overall technical base, it's pretty low. It's down here. It's filled that gap. It's done an island reversal. We have to believe there's a bit of momentum through it. Hopefully there continues to be some. Let's move over to Apple. So Apple's getting itself squeezed here early in the morning, and this is certainly for the shorters. You're going to be very excited with how it trades around here. Look at this, 182 9. Wait, was it 182.87? Could be the all-time high. We are trading at 182.87 right now. Is that right? Wait a second. Sorry. My red line here is 182.90. So we are 5 cents away from the all-time high pretty much on Apple, somewhere around that, very close. As the market opens here, I believe it's going to squeeze through and there's going to be a very interesting level here. This is a rare day. You don't often see markets hitting new lows, new highs, and especially stocks that are going past. This will make the news and this will get people FOMOing all over the place. So what happens here today on Apple is very, very important. Do we see a push through, goes a little bit higher, squeezes out, comes back down, does something like this? That'd be a pretty good turn story. Another thing that could happen is it just pushes, instantly sells, just slight high. Again, very, very interesting turn story. These are the days that I actually stick around and usually watch a stock like Apple because it's up 1%. It's near all-time highs. I would expect it to crack it and then probably to take people's shorts, squeeze them all out, whatever that needs to happen, and then we'll see whether there's an actual real bear there. Hader Al Defi, thank you very much. I probably butchered your name. I'm sorry about that. $4.99. Whilst we are on a SPAC, what about QuantumScape? Mid long term SPACs. I thought we were done with SPACs. Aren't they gone? Yeah. So Apple here, yeah, certainly the watch list for today. Absolutely. One of the stocks I want to bring up, Disney's on my watch list, Apple's on my watch list. This is more completely opposite to Disney. I'm looking at it as what happens when we break a new high. How does the market react to that? Do we get some nice structure? I'm super interested. Let's have a look at this SPAC, which is QS. I think you've asked about QuantumScape before. See whether it actually loads. Probably won't on that chart. We'll just load it over here. QS, QuantumScape. There we go. So this is, yeah, it's a good old-fashioned SPAC. Came in at $10, went ballistic, typical of these things. And then now we're back down. Look, with SPACs, I don't really know how many of them actually have real businesses. Whenever you backdoor into a market, I'm never a fan. You've gone through the gauntlet. So what is this? August 20. So you've done about 2 years, which is fine. That's good. 22 years plus. So how does it look on a tech basis? Okay, volume's just dying off. I don't know if this is going to go. It needs a catalyst, and that catalyst is most likely earnings. It wasn't on the last earnings. And here it was buying the rumor. So let's have a look how it trades generally into earnings. Bit of a buy the rumor, then it sells. Buy the rumor. Didn't mind the earnings here. It actually went higher. It's very, very tough. You don't have much history with these. So to claim them as a technical win would be very, very difficult. You could argue this is a little inverse head and shoulders on the small time frames. It's not really what I would usually trade off. I'd probably be looking for some kind of catalyst event to then give us a couple of good days. It seems to be able to run. When it goes on a run, it seems to have quite a few days on it. So maybe you'd look for a catalyst. Was that a catalyst session? Well, obviously it hasn't been so far. Yeah, I think it's very tough. You need to get past 820 to really get excited about this stock. And even then, do I like it? Not really. Do I think it's on probably cheap level? Yes. As long as it keeps fundamentally not burning whatever money it's got, it should be based or close to based. That doesn't mean it's going to go ballistic anytime soon. $12 seems to be a pretty interesting target for it as well. It seems to constantly go back to there. I'd also load a fixed range volume profile on it. You'll notice that the trade here is 781. So yeah, you're really going to need to clear 820 to show momentum. Otherwise, you're just going back to like a pretty big trade level. So that's my thoughts on QuantumScape. PayPal, yeah. Rick Moran says Apple sells off after events. Yeah, it used to do that a lot. Like it was such a great trade around hype into like an iPhone or hype into a new announcement. They'd announce the phone, they'd announce everything, and it would just have incremental upgrades, and it would sell off immediately. It was pretty sweet. All right, let's have a look at PayPal. A horror show that it has been. Let's see if it's actually started to show some improvement. So there was a little bit of buying last week. Good weekly, firstly, closes above the long leg doji. That's good. The daily has taken out a new high. However, it hasn't taken this high out yet. So that's going to be an important level for it. 63.96 needs to take that. When you're buying this, you're basically buying capitulation. So at this point, you're having to ask yourself the question, how many times has PayPal dropped? So you're not really buying it necessarily because the business is any good. So it's dropped once, big, based, destroyed everybody. Okay. Based is what people thought here, I'm sure. Destroyed everybody. So most people are going to be sick of this stock if they've been trying to buy the dips. They will hate it purely. So this is a good time. A third or arguably fourth base off actually improves the odds that we have found a significant bottom and that we will find buyers, even though it doesn't look like it on technicals. That's something that I've found over the years has been relatively good. And in general, you don't want to buy the drop. Instead, you want to buy the V return. So probably what I would look for is it gets past this level, it rallies up, it dumps a little bit, 61.8 fib, something like that, then look for that gap fill back up to 76. And at that point, well, you're going to have to ask yourself a lot of questions. There'll be a ton of trade through here. But PayPal has increased volume on it. You can see it's higher than any of the other points. It's going to be out of a lot of extreme zones. It's sold very heavily, and it's a sick company, which obviously no one wants, but that doesn't mean it's not oversold. So it's a very risky trade, and you have to know how to take these. So it's kind of like saying, do you want to short AVGO or NVIDIA right now? You'd say probably not. It's scary and I'd see a big move. Well, yeah, when things are scary, they're often the best. But the problem is you need risk management around it. So PayPal, it has some signs of finding the buyers here. JJ says, I'd buy SoFi over PayPal as an investment. Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know if PayPal is an investment anymore. So SoFi was very popular years ago. It suffered the same problem, came in super strong, based off way better base here on SoFi. That's so much better. Can you see how much better that is, guys? It even has a full island reversal, actually gap down, gap up through a full base here. Good volume through it. It's always very well loved by social media people. I don't actually know what's going on with SoFi as a business, but that's a much better base. That's the type of base that you believe could be real accumulation if you actually understood the fundamentals behind it. And you can see here the volume has remained relatively consistent, which means there are pigs or interested people in this particular pair. And that's a big one. Bull Bear says August the 18th, 2022 was the last SPY North Gap fill from 2022, which was finally closed on Friday. Very interesting, along with the 61.8 fib. I think there's one last gap actually left. So we'll go over to the SPY now. Thank you very much for the donations and the interesting stocks that we've been looking at. Let's go over to the SPX here. So there should be one last one, which is here, which I've got marked 4304. So let's have a look at the smaller time frames. You can see here, there's the close. So I was correct. There's still one more gap left, which is 4304. So I wouldn't be surprised at all for the market to find that. My preference here would actually be the market to go down a bit, fold like this, hit it one more time, piss people off a lot, take a low, and then we could say, okay, I think we've seen the high with the skew push, with the PCC, with all of those things. We have to believe at this point this is still in a bull trend, even though we're at our extreme resistance number 2. We don't have the reasons to get negative on this. KC Hound said SoFi had earnings beat, school loan deferral just lifted, company estimates profitability this year, made great vertical integration banking technologies. Thank you very much for sharing that. And yeah, that's a big one. So there you go, some extreme. Nathan Smith says, let's go extreme greed. Yeah, I haven't actually looked at the greed fear indicator. Let's have a look. I'm sure it's showing some extreme greed. Only a little bit of greed. Guys, this is not much greed. Look at that. Only 62 on the rating. Very low greed here. Very low greed. It's but I don't really care about their indicator. It's irrelevant to me. What we need is to actually look behind the circles and say, okay, what are the put calls doing? What are people doing with calls right now? What is the skew doing? What's the cost of hedging? Has the cost of hedging decreased or gone up? What's the volatility of the volatility doing? What are the hedges doing? And these are the questions we should be asking more so than, what's a random indicator of breadth and a bunch of other things telling us about these markets. Let's jump over to the US 500. Let's have a look here at some standard deviations. Interestingly, we are outside of a pretty interesting standard deviation I tend to watch. You will notice this is very rare inside of the market. So it's actually very hard to get outside of this. And when you do get outside of that, you got to pay attention. Usually it means either a market that's starting a new rally or it's a little bit extended and it will turn around. So you can see here the US 500. I'll chuck the US 100 on it, which is obviously the Nasdaq. Again, it extended out. A lot of interesting extreme reads here, coming into one of my important levels, but not into the high. So I still think there could be about 3% left in this Nasdaq, but probably not better performance than the rest of the market. So yeah, that's the one. I want to ask the chat, everyone out there, over 1,000 people joining us today. Thank you very much, by the way, guys. Always appreciate it. How many people are talking about the Russell breakout this weekend? I know you watch a few others. You probably follow people. Who is talking about the Russell breakout? I have a feeling it's probably everybody. I'm hoping it's not, but I probably think it is. William Moore, $10. Thoughts on the Target TGT? We'll check it out in a moment. Thank you very much, William Moore. Always appreciate the support. We've also got English Teacher X, $5. Thank you very much for the donation. And there we go. He says, what about Google? Do you think that will get back to its previous highs? I'm sure it will get back to its previous highs. The question is when. Timing is everything. So yes, let's have a look what people are saying. Everyone, only a few are talking. Nathan Smith says another green day. Yep, 0.08 up at the moment, certain. And Richard C says TGT, the falling knife, or buy Dylan Multivany index play. Okay. I don't know what that means, but anyway, that's all right. We'll keep going. So let's just go through Target. But first up, I call it Target. Any Australian will know what I'm talking about. Let's go through a couple of stocks here. So we focused on Intel last week. That was a pretty good winner for us. Had some nice moves. Ended up from the Monday stream, which was here, getting up about 8%, which is considerable. So really nice moves there on Intel. I still think there's more in this stock. If the market does turn, Intel could have still a bit of a run. It is behind everybody else. And I know there's reasons, but the stock actually has good technicals on it still. So interesting point. We also talked about Enphase. That's had a relatively decent run on it. I still think there could be more on this stock. Bit overpriced, certainly down there. And one I've been following for a while, finally got the catalyst just before we go through these donations, which is Triple M. We got a catalyst here, possible lawsuit settlement. Now, if you put Triple M out, not only is this an island reversal, which we seem to be seeing a lot of, which is a gap down, gap up. That's a big bit of news. I expected to drop a bit of that because they haven't actually done the lawsuit finalization stuff, but you can see the trend. It is horrendous for this stock. So if they manage to get a settlement, the market could like it. And it's a deep problematic stock, which obviously has seen a small turn and everybody hates it. It was basing for a long time. And this looked pretty good base. Took out a low, typical of how it works. It's coming back now, probably drops a bit, maybe take the low to the high, 61.8. Certainly one on my watch list this week. It is a sick company, don't get me wrong. It's being sued every left, right, rich way since Sunday, but it is literally trading at the same top price as it was in almost 2004 and 2007 and 2011. So it's a pretty big company, and this is a big deal. All right, let's check out TGT, which is coming under, I don't know, attack from everybody, I guess. Interesting. We looked at this and we kind of cautioned against anybody trying to buy it last week. I still don't like what I see enough yet. Has it hit a point? Yes. Did it hit our good area? No. Do I want it down more? Theoretically, yes. The weekly is strong because it actually got a wick rejection back up. but I do think that this stock could come under further fire. I would prefer it into this block here. So I think I priced in the 120 kind of and under to 115 as a TA level, and then the 95 level as a TA level. Again, they're just technical analysis levels. They're my extreme zones that I would like to get this stock to. Now, if you see a nice movement up from this point, then it pulls back and you start to get that V, well, that could be a false break. And if you get the evidence where it pushes back up, then it comes back down, that could be the signal that you want for a deeper pullback, like a deep pullback, kind of deep value buy. It's not really about your opinion on a stock like this. Obviously, it's coming under scrutiny at the moment. I believe everyone forgets about all these things. What's the chat think, though? I mean, I remember so many things. There's been seatbelt scandals. There's been this scandal. There's other things. People were angry at Gillette a few years ago, and then they just went back to buying Gillette. I don't really know what's going on with it. But yeah. Andrew says, everyone I follow. Yep. One day on the Russell, and we have amazing breadth. I heard about that, Will. Yeah, everyone's like, the breadth is back, guys. Well, I can tell you it's not back, because if the breadth was back hard, then you would see something like this, which is the percentage of stocks above the 200-day moving average actually be, more up in these areas. And it's still just one day of it. English teacher wanted a question about Google, so we'll do that. We're about 10 minutes off the market open, so we'll go through our individual stocks here in a second and the markets in a rapid fire test. Let's do Google first. And Google is the question, will it ever return back to all-time highs? I mean, I think the simple answer is probably, and very, very likely. I mean, they have a lot of data. They can obviously leverage that into AI, which is a big, important part of how this all sits. It will cannibalize their business as well, but no doubt it will help them a lot. Now, I've kind of said it, many times that personally, I was a big fan of grabbing that Google run to here. I thought that was an excellent run. I think it's a little bit overshot at this stage. You can see here from the high to the low, we have a 61.8 fib. It is struggling around this zone. It's taken this level out. It's back into this structure, which obviously could act as support into resistance. And I think it's a potential turn zone here for the Googs. So watch Google. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see like this type of thing occur, or even that occur later on. So will it hit all-time highs? My opinion is yes. But right now, I think it's probably a little extended. I think the Russell could be bottoming for a while. I think it could be bottoming for a while as well. And, that's one of those stocks that, or one of the sectors that often can sit there for a bit. But I do feel like people have been super negative on it. I think the Russell downside here is this is a more, let's say, a better looking target than a lot of the market. Because where's the Russell's downside? Probably somewhere in 1400 to 1700 max. So somewhere in there. And that's the downside. The other markets have maybe more downside if that was to occur. So if we saw this fall off 19.81%, of course, other markets could also drop it. The thing with the Russell is it should be improving faster. So why has it based this way? I mean, we've seen Russell base before, break out, and then just be horrible. And if I go to IWM, so we can load previous history on the Russell, go weekly, it's been a long time since we've seen something like this. Like, look at the base, okay? Have we seen something similar? There's a base that's happening at the top, breaks out, ends up not being that great. Here's the GFC. Does it look the same? Not really. Does it look the same here? I guess. Does this look the same? What do you think? Do you think this one, I'm going to call this A in the chat, does that look kind of more familiar to us of what we're seeing right now in the Russell? I mean, it's just a strange base. So there's the triple bottom, and then it goes up and kind of floats around. If we go back over here, we've got the double or bottom or triple bottom, I guess you could argue, and then we're breaching through. So I think very likely the Russell will want a 190. That's going to need a lot of the market to come through. This is a very obvious break. A lot of people are on it and talking about it. We're pulling back today. The Russell's known to do these sneaky, nasty breaks. There's a sneaky, nasty break. Let's look at the dates here. March into April, nasty. There's the August breakout. Oh, it's real. No, it's not. So that the Russell is well known to head fake. And I like what I see. It makes all of the technical sense. Big volumes, volume on the breakout. Obviously, gap low, gap up. You're looking for momentum. You're looking for the 190. 8 out of 10, maybe even 7 out of 10 times, this is the right move. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very tough call. Mez Giro says, I hope Tesla dies. Oh, okay. Well, I hope they don't. They won't support my car. Kevin says, IWM is going up because become Godzilla and rip your negativity apart, Tom. No, I don't mind. If I was going to buy, I'd probably buy the Russell. I don't really want to buy any particular index. I think individual stocks are the better pick right now, my personal opinion, and certain sectors. That's just the way I kind of see it. So this is technically a buy, technically. Bluegrass 5 string banjo picking $5. Thoughts on natural gas, Tom? Yep, we can check that out. Then we'll go through the rapid fire. So let's begin the rapid fire. Thank you for the $5. All right. So thoughts on natural gas. I do think that this is forming base. Kind of looks like the Russell in some ways. It's dropping volume. Obviously, interest on it has peaked. That interest came from this massive sell-off. This is symptomatic of a overall too big a sell. We took the low, which is a positive sign. Then we've taken this high, which looks pretty good. We pulled back deep past the 78.6, and we're seeing some strength here. Natural gas, remember, you have to expect up to 30% moves. You've also got a huge roll contract, so it's not really easy to play it. But I would think that this looks very good for a basing structure. So my guess is more upside than downside at these levels. US oil, let's just quickly show you here. This is coming up to a supply zone. You can see on this smaller 2-hour time frame, it's coming to the resistance. I would think it tries to break that and go towards the most traded zone, 77. The one I'm more interested in, though, as we do the rapid fire here, is dollar. So I like US dollar. I'm very interested in seeing how it trades around this zone. So you'll notice here, I've got it kind of set up. I'm looking for US dollar weakness here. It's been very strong. Obviously, we love that. This is a critical level. This is usually where you'll get the turn, and it's pushing that narrative. So if I'm looking at US dollar, I need to be obviously looking at Euro USD as well. So we'll go to the Euro USD here. You can see that it's back in these trade ranges. If we go to like a 3-minute chart, it's taken a low. That's good because the sentiment was way too bullish on this. That probably hunted a lot of people today, looking for it to go bullish past probably a 107.05. And then, probably looking at further, like a pullback into a long concept. If that works, that'd be good. It's the right zone for the dollar. We'll find out whether it can. And you can see here on the daily where it's at. So pretty important that dollar finds some weakness here. If it keeps finding strength, then we're going next up to probably around 105.70. And at 105.70, we're facing a potential of a monster double bottom. So key point here for the dollar. I think it's one of the most interesting trades of the day. Copper's at supply. So, looking to see whether it goes bullish or bearish today. Bearish would be preferred if you are feeling bearish on markets. Tesla is up. So let's just quickly go here. 3 minutes. Tesla traded 217. This thing has calls all over it. We've cautioned. I've said this thing is not technical at the moment, unless you're just going with the rally, which is the rally. So you can't try to short this thing right now. I still think 145 will be achieved at some point in the future. That doesn't change my opinion on that. I don't have skin in the game here on Tesla. But yeah, once it broke through these areas, as we thought, we knew that was probably a base. We had a feeling 183 would be achieved. It was, and it pushed that most traded zone, and it keeps pushing. And that I said, as soon as I saw those calls coming through, Tesla's on the bandwagon. I wouldn't be surprised at all for it to approach a 220, 230, get into this extreme level 2, and then possibly blow off. This stock's following the rest of the AI stocks. So yeah, Tesla's on absolutely, a huge run. And that's what happens, when the calls get firing, everyone jumps on board and they get crazy. All right, let's move over to the US 500 as we approach this next couple of minutes. So you can see that we're at a pretty interesting zone, which I've got marked out here. 42.88 was one of our old gap fills. We still have a gap fill at 4,300 plus. I do think the US 500 should rotate higher. I would expect US 500 and 2,000 to potentially outperform the Nasdaq at this point, specifically US 500. I'm looking for defensive stocks to hopefully perform better here, and I would like to see it go and fill that final gap. So I think that's 43.08. I wouldn't even mind a new high, and of course, Apple will be the one to watch as we go through. Mark that new high, check it out today as we see it into the open. We'll watch it in just a minute. US 100, a little bit weaker. This market is at one key point. It's not quite at the secondary. If you're looking at shorts and you actually want those things, then you're needing it to go at least 14,200 or below. So again, just rapid fire. We're only about a minute off here. So we're just going through as quickly as we can. Bitcoin still very weak. Is it front loading the market? I don't know. But yes, it's still weak in my opinion. 24,000 is still my target until proven otherwise, and it takes out my highs. And of course, this area up here is critical, which is 29.5. Here we go, guys. We're about to open the market. I'm going to watch Apple into the open just because I'm interested to see whether it can tap that high. So ding, ding, ding. Let's do it. Microsoft $500. Yeah. Okay. I'm with that. I'm with Microsoft to $1 million. There we go. Why not? Could you talk about how the debt ceiling deal affects short and long-term bonds? I'll probably put that in the daily show. It's a bit of a big discussion. Ding, 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 ding. Here we go off to the races, guys. We've got 182.93. Thank you to the 1,100 people joining us. If you like the video, that will be helpful. So we're looking for Apple to take a high today so we can get newspapers talking about it. I want to see all-time highs Apple as the next day's video. Basically, it needs to take the high. Ideally, it would then sell. Now, this is where people will have stop losses. Unfortunately, there's probably someone watching right now that's freaking out about this zone. There will be people with stop losses above these highs. And this will be, I like watching these ones with like a 1 minute chart or a 3 minute chart or something, just because when it goes through, often it gets explosive. It does like a huge move up and then quickly rejects. And it does that because it's hunted and it's reversed people's trades. So Apple's certainly one that I would like to watch. Let's blow to second screen as we watch Apple in small time frames. Tesla finding strength, 218.98, 219, 220 calls were all over the place. So yeah, still a lot of calls. I expect retail to be on this one. Probably the weekend helps a lot. So today could be, very explosive Tesla into, possibly a decline after that. 230 would be like my top end. I didn't see too many calls running harder than that. US 100 turned positive after being negative. 2000 is down. So the so-called exceptional breadth is not really coming through just yet. Let's look at some defensives. Let's see how they're trading. So we've got XLU up 0.2. We've got XLP down 0.14. We've got XLV, which is another defensive up 0.14. So just pretty lackluster. Some of the better sectors, XLI, that's flat as a tack, and XLY, which is consumer discretionary, up 0.38. So here we go. Here's Apple. I want to go full screen on that. All right, here we go. Oh, look at it. There it is. Yep. Did we just hit an all-time high? I think we did. All-time high for Apple, guys. You witnessed history. What do you think about that? Bang. Oh, someone got spiked. Nasty. How high will Tesla go? I don't know. I think it's 230 is possible. Depends where those. Look at the calls. You have to watch the flow on these Tesla. This Tesla position is run purely by zero DTE mad dogs with their little zero DTE. 1/3 of all of Tesla volume trades. It's definitely squeezing shorts out. Okay, good. So we're on an all-time high officially for Apple. I want to see this keep going for a little bit. And ideally, it kind of takes that high, runs it like that, maybe does this, and it's over. This is a very important level, though, for the old Apple. Now, can we get an all-time high on Tesla today, please? Chris, you want an all-time high on Tesla? Look at that. Oh, someone got smashed. Nasty. I know it's only 10, 15 cents, but see how it just whipped it? There's somebody getting absolutely caned and squeezed off there. So look at these differences. Nvidia down 0.55, Microsoft flat, Apple squeezing. Sneaky. Very interested in the reaction on this one. I will put it in the daily show because I think it's very important to know how Apple relates around an all-time high, because it can be the barometer. It's like the canary, yeah. So if you see Apple hit an all-time high like it's doing, it gets its run on like this, which is super expected. And it's just because there's so many hunts that are behind there and people are getting covered. SoFi is doing well. Yeah. The SoFi's got a good base. I don't even know the stock, but I can't deny the technicals, guys. If it's good, it's good. And if it's bad, it's bad. And there are some terrible, terrible stocks that people bring up sometimes on this channel. How much is SoFi up? Let's have a look. 4.18. Nice. Yeah, look, it's a solid base. I like the base. I mean, yeah. What can I say? It looks really good. I hope it keeps going for some people, maybe another buck or something. Disney, a bit disappointing, only down 0.22 as the rest of the market does struggle. You got TLT going back to 101.20. Apple obviously still the only bullish one pulling through the Nasdaq at this stage, and US 2000, which everyone's talking about, just can't get it through. Can't get any action today. Yields are also up. We didn't really discuss yields, so we'll just go through the US 2-year. You can see here the 2-year, pretty interesting, 4.564. I want to look at the 03 MY, which this shows us that we've got a very high rate still. So 5.37, 4.564. I mean, the market, this is so bizarre. The market has taken off, which we knew. We knew this would occur. We knew the market was being stupid because the Fed has to hold, okay? The market's repriced a lot of that hold, yet has it fallen? No. All of a sudden, it's all good. Don't worry about it. We're going to stay higher for longer. That's okay. No worries. Yeah, okay. We'll see about that. No worries, guys. No worries is not good. But remember, we know that we can't have a recession in the next 6 months generally. Why? Well, it's as simple as we haven't even seen jobs numbers go bad. Alessandro says, I'm adding shorts on Tesla. Ooh, you're going against the nasty squeezes. Fair enough. Hopefully you can do that. Billy May says, big auction could be sucking out liquidity from the futures market. I would say so. Yeah, so the big auction that we're talking about here is this, which is, of course, all of the treasury bills. So we've got T-bills. It's a T-bill day. Look at that. Look at the beautiful T-bills here. Lots of money for the T-bills. And if we look at 2011, which I put on the video many times, it didn't really... You've exceeded your plan's limit of 50 connections. The hell? 50 connections? Oh, damn, dude. I have a lot of 50. 50 connections, quite a lot, I assume. I've never even got that warning before. Is that too many, guys? Is 50 too many? Tom says everything is already priced in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why your opinion means nothing. You just got to look at the price. Look, markets are relatively efficient. So they've smelt something a while ago and gone for it. But that doesn't mean that they don't trap as well. They're relatively efficient, but they still have trappings. DAX, not much to report here. It's kind of just floating around these pullback highs. So if you took a high to low, you can see it's a 61.8. Why is all of the futures market volume so dead? Well, it's probably something to do with, as we were just talking about then, the T-bills. I had same today. Blue smiling face is not financial advice. So what do I think of the DAX? Yeah, I just think it's this little resistance. It's very similar to the XJO, which is also trading at off the trend line at this stage. And a few people are asking me to look at junk, which is like HYG, bonds. I'll close a couple of these tabs just because I've got too many open. So yeah, Apple's still very much on my watch list today. I might check that out later. So let's check out junk. JNK high yields, pretty negligible. Let's have a look at HYG, which is again fairly negligible, down 0.2 only. Nothing too big here. Inverse King. What are you saying there, Inverse King? No worries, Gary. Catch you, mate. Dow's going red. Yeah, Dow's been very weak recently. Obviously, today, Nasdaq's mostly led by Apple. Tom, what do you think the RBA will do? They should raise rates, Phil, most likely. I don't know what the expectation is. Let's have a look. They should raise rates, but well, they also should block some money coming into the country so people can actually afford a house. My God, it's pretty bad. Ponzi scheme continues. Let's have a look here. RBA, what's the expectation? No rate hike, eh? Yeah. I mean, would they create an uproar? Probably. Should they raise rates? Yes. A lot of people disagree with me with that, but I think they should. Can you show smart money versus dumb money? It's pretty much in the middle. Very little edge on that chart at the moment, sir. Bob. You only really use smart money versus dumb money when there's a huge divergence between the two. And again, it's kind of like it's not my indicator. So I don't really know what goes into it. I've just noticed over the years that when you have a huge divergence between the two, it can be a confluence technique. Okay. It can be a confluence technique. Phil B says they already paused once and look at how they turned out. Yeah, look, it's not good. It's the government versus the RBA. A lot of Americans won't care about this, but basically, the Reserve Bank of Australia, which is like your Fed, is doing a very stupid thing. They're relying on the Federal Reserve to look after inflation. They're relying on the US to do something about what we've got a problem with, and we can't do that. We've never seen a discrepancy so big. We've always had a higher interest rate than the US in Australia, and we don't at the moment. And that's a problem. So, because the Fed is not done fighting inflation, it's still in Australia in particular. We need to cool it. But anyway, we'll see what they do. I don't know. I don't even want to get into it. Do you think oil can go back to 100? I don't think so. I'm pretty negative on oil. I just knew this spike was more likely coming because it does tend to come at these points in the year. But yeah, no, I'm not a positive person on the oils. I think oil should only go down with demand destruction. And the higher we keep these rates for longer, it will put pressure on the oil price because people just buy less crap. And that's why consumer discretionary is struggling as well. Nvidia in the green. Yeah. So with Nvidia and AVGO, so remember AVGO is the other one as well. Load that up. You have to expect these stocks ideally to go green because it's just because you say, oh, the top's in. Okay, the top could be in. Absolutely. I think this is the sign of the top being in. Does that mean that it can't go back here in this? No. I can absolutely do that. In fact, in most situations, one of these two scenarios is the one I say occurs. Nvidia didn't quite dump the way I'd want it to. So if you have a look at Nvidia, this is not symptomatic of the end yet. Usually it would sell a lot more, then get brutal. So that's a bit unfortunate. But yeah, you want to have like big sell. I'm guessing there could be maybe one last. I want to see a really big rip down. And we didn't really. We only got like 10%. Reports of big purchases by Buffett on oil. Yeah, he purchased a lot though at a higher point as well. So he was buying Chevron. So if you have a look at Chevron, also you don't really know if it's Buffett anymore. I don't even think it is. So like, Chevron at these prices, I mean, it's definitely more reasonable. I don't know if he was buying. I think it was Chevron he was buying last time. But yeah, look, the oil stocks, the reason they're purchasing them is they're looking long term and they're saying there's not enough investment in oil. They're not going to invest in oil correctly. So oil stocks will go well during the green revolution or whatever you're going to call it. For me, I felt very bad about the barrel. The barrel is down to where I wanted it to be, which is 65. Obviously, it's higher now, but 65 was my barrel take. I'm still not liking energy stocks at this stage and probably turn my opinion on them in the future. But at this stage, I'm not loving them still. What just happened to the SPY? Well, the SPY needs to go to 43.06 to fill in the gap. So remember, we've got a 43.06. This is, again, not unexpected. We need to fill this gap, which is at 43. Was it 43.06 or 43.04? But anyway, we need to fill that. Ben says, I'm stuck shorting Nasdaq as a trade investor. Should I take losses or wait it out? Oh, man, it's a hard question. I don't know how much you're down. And it's sad if you don't have risk management on it. If you've sold like a CFD or a future and then you just kind of left it, that is a problem. Look, for 90% of people, it is better to just remember this. The stock market, 68% of all of the times is bullish. Some ridiculous stat like that. It's like ridiculously bullish. Maybe it's 59. I can't remember actually. That's a 10% discrepancy. But anyway, it's bullish a hell of a lot more than it's bearish. So you just, for most people, shorting is very difficult. I only generally tend to short unless I'm day trading and I see incredible signals with options. Okay. Why do I do that? It's to protect myself. And that doesn't mean I just go buy a put because you'll get handed to. You'll get smashed. It'll cost you a fortune. We see that with the skew. So, yeah, I mean, it's just like, I know it is very, very dangerous position. Now, are you at arguably a very high point? That kind of, signal that you're just saying to me says, well, you're feeling it. And if you're feeling it, a lot of other people are too. And a lot of people are getting wiped. Apple just wiped people just before. It's tough to call. I mean, I don't know what your tolerance is. I can't tell you. Obviously, this is not a advice channel like that. It's more we're looking at the technical reasons. So Apple's breakout high here is going to be the big deal of the day. How that holds, obviously, how all these markets hold. The US 500 is pushing towards 43.04 gap or 06 gap. That's going to be important. We're looking for dollar to also find weakness. So I want dollar is probably one of the better areas right now. So I want to see dollar weakness start to come through. This is a turn point if it's going to do it. And then, of course, Bitcoin could be interesting. If it keeps dropping and showing that weakness across the board, then maybe that's a precursor sign. We've seen it a few times before. Tesla, very scary. 220 certainly on the call end. 230 possible. I don't know if I'd trade for 230 anymore. And some of the stocks, SoFi had a nice base. People were enjoying that one today. Triple M continues to drop, which is fine by me. And Disney just kind of holding firm at a 0.36. Noticeably as well, skew is also, whoops, we'll get rid of that. We've got skew over here. There's my skew. Skew continues to get crushed. So puts are not on the agenda right now for people. And I think that will continue to play into this being an extreme zone. So for everybody out there, thank you. I hope you had a good one. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you are interested in any of the things that we produce or any of the other stuff that we do, you can also check out the link in the comments section, which you can get some cheat sheets, and you can obviously check out one of our special offers if you're interested. Follow us on Twitter, all those types of things. I will be getting back into Twitter big time, so that will be something I definitely promise you guys. So following it will be worthwhile. And of course, I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you in the community. We're going to bring more options into it over the next couple of weeks. We have to get, all over zero DTEs. This market is absolutely rife with them. And that means that we also need to look for big puts, because we know that 430 is a strike that at least someone cares about enough to write some pretty serious positions. And I shared that with you before. These are pretty serious positions. I'll be continuing to watch the 4,300 strike. Then we're looking for the price action to break that down. At the moment, single stocks and rotation seems to be the best play. And of course, AI, while it was great while it lasted, to me, I think you're in nothing land right now on AI. At least that's my opinion. And I think there's other fish to fry in these markets. Thank you so much. And that doesn't mean it's an investment problem. I mean, investors, you can be cool on AI, but from a swing trader's perspective or a day trader, I think you're getting near the top now on this one. There could be more. I'm not going to sell my positions that are investments, but I've descaled the others, so it's all good. All right, thank you very much. Someone wants gold to finish it up. Yep, we'll have a look at gold. Gold pulled back again. If dollar weakens, we should see strength in gold here. You can see it's a base. So yeah, I'm hoping for gold to turn here for the bullish side. Obviously, been incredibly negative on gold. It broke the trend line that we talked about last Monday. There's our trend line. We broke it up. We traded the most heavily traded zone. We sold off. We need weakness in dollar, though, to strengthen the gold play. And at the same time, you're going to need to see yields also turn down to strengthen gold. We do know bigger traders have been shorting the pair. Thank you very much. Bye for now. Jonathan says, hey, Tom, I'm in Ann Arbor. Love to meet you. Well, hopefully I meet a lot of you guys out there in the community when I come to America. September, I'm there. If you're interested in the conference, I got big names coming. I'm serious. We'll announce it soon. It's going to be very exciting. I'm going to be taking notes because there's some good speakers and I love to learn stuff as well. So you're always learning in this game. You're always improving. There's been things that people have sent me in this community where I've picked it up and I went, damn, that's a great idea. Thank you very much for sharing that, because you can kind of tell when you've been in the game for long enough what could potentially give you edge and what doesn't. And I'm always open to people's opinions. So thank you very much for sharing, even with me. Thank you for sharing with the community. And yeah, I also put some extra protection on the Discord as well. So if you've tried it before and there was too many spam bots, I think I removed a whole bunch of them. All right, catch up. Places I am going, obviously Vegas for the conference. I'm definitely going to Michigan, but I'm not going to be there long. New York, 100%. If anyone's in New York, shout out to the New York peeps. I'll be in, I don't know, Manhattan, I guess. And then I'll be going to Miami and then Cali for like a day or two. All right. When you come to America, take note of portion sizes and how they compare to Australia. Are they similar? I will document it, but I'm telling you right now, I can already tell American super size or large size is definitely larger than Australians, but we're getting bigger. Don't worry. We haven't got the big cups, the big cups. When you go to Macca's over in America, I believe you get like I don't even know. It's like feels like it's a gallon. They're so big. They won't fit in our cars. You put it in the car cup holder and it would just it just wouldn't even go in. Get some big cups, guys. They're huge. How's my child doing? Very, very good. Thank you very much. They are. I actually want to look at a picture of one now. 1 second. American McDonald's cup size. Wait a second. Oh, there's like a videos on it now. I can imagine. Mega jug. 120 ounces. What the? That's really big. The hell? 128 ounces. Is that big? I don't know. That's in mil. Oh, here we go. How do McDonald's sizes 30 ounce? Wait, what? How was 128 ounces? 30 ounce. Okay. Is the large. Almost. It's getting up there near a liter. Okay. That's a lot. That's a big one. I don't know if I can handle that much sugar. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll have to go diet. Catch you for now. And I better get in the gym because when I come to America, then I'm pretty sure those ribs will make me fat. All right. Bye for now. Catch you.